I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding in even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up, because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply...
For over 40 years, the Halloween series has thrilled and terrified audiences. From its low-budget origins to spawning a new era of slashers. The franchise remains a cultural touchstone around the world, often referred to as the Gone with the Wind of horror. From the first chilling notes of the iconic score to the final frame, join Joel Brown as we explore the iconic horror series, digging deep into the characters, the storylines, and the spine-chilling scares. Welcome to Talking Shape with Joel Brown, the ultimate podcast for Halloween franchise enthusiasts.
2023 Stop the Killer, in partnership with Fright Rags, will be releasing an official licensed board game celebrating the 1981 Halloween 2 film. And here to tell us more about it, plus all things regarding the Halloween franchise, he's a genre expert producing such horror retrospectives as Halloween 25 Years of Terror. His name was Jason, 30 years of Friday the 13th, and Still Screaming, the ultimate scary movie retrospective. The president of Masi Media. It's a big hello and welcome to Anthony Masi.
Oh my God, thank you for having me.
I tell you what, Halloween 2, the board game, I think I saw this posted online, would have been probably mid last year or 2022, and I was like, oh my God, where is this? Where do I get it? I guess. But let's go back to the beginning, I guess. I mean, it's going to be the third installment with the Stop the Killer series that you've done with Fright Rags. I mean, Silent Night, Deadly Night, and My Bloody Valentine were the first ones to kick it off. But why Halloween 2 as the third installment with this series?
Well, it has a huge fan base. It's one of my favorite horror movies ever. I love Halloween 2. I mean, I watch Halloween 2 the most out of the Halloween franchise, just because I love it so much. I love the lighting and just what it looks like, and Michael looks great in it, and so I love that movie. But Fright Rags had the license for Halloween 2, and that had a big effect or influence on why we did this game next. It's a much bigger title than the previous games we did in the series, and so it just was really exciting to have this license. And so we thought this would make it the perfect third entry. And in horror movies, in slasher movies from the early 80s, there's like these conventions that we build into the board game. So there's usually a killer, a very identifiable killer. He's trying to get somewhere from A to Z. He's trying to get somewhere. There's usually a sheriff. Silent Night, Deadly Night, it was Officer Barnes. My Bloody Valentine, it was Chief Newbie. For Halloween 2, it's Officer Hunt. And so there's like tropes that also Halloween 2 lent itself very, very wonderfully to the method of play for Stop the Killer. And so we just thought, for those reasons, and it's just such a great 80s horror movie. So that's why we picked it.
And my thinking was as well, there was more characters than, say, the original Halloween, because that was such a small, low-budget independent film. I mean, it's in a hospital, and I imagine that could open itself up to, like, from a board game perspective, different locations on the board, could be different parts of the hospital. That's just me sort of, I guess, guessing. But you mentioned, like, Fright Rags having the license. So if they had the license, say, for example, to the new Halloween or maybe the original Halloween, would have it been based off that?
Yeah, well, we're chasing licenses that we have access to, and Fright Rags has really great licenses in place already. And so, like, the next game after Halloween 2 is a license I had to chase, because I have a relationship with the guy that owns something that has to do with the franchise, and so I sort of had to crack that nut. But Ben has just as a Ben over at Fright Rags, named Ben Scrivens. I don't know if you know his name, but he runs Fright Rags. Just he was telling me what licenses he had, and I was like, oh my god, we have to do a Halloween 2 game. I mean, you know, how fun is that? A board game based on Halloween 2, sign me up. And this is actually the artwork for the front of the box. I don't know if you can see it, but
It looks fantastic.
yeah, and you've got like Jamie Lee. You don't see her face though. It's like her butt. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, was that if the face is seen, I guess the price and
Yeah.
the license, or that she may have been have a percentage, or
Yeah, you have to clear likeness and all of that. And the artist, it's Justin Osborne, who does he did this graphic. But Fright Rag says he's amazing artists, and so the games look great. And that was one thing we wanted, was to make sure that the games just were collectibles in themselves, whereas it's not just a game that has a really simple board. It's a really thoughtful, beautifully done board. So we put gold foiling on them and little other like glossy UV spot treatments, just to make it a collectible in itself. And I love when people open the game for the first time and they study everything. You had mentioned about Halloween too, like, are there going to be locations and stuff? It's two-sided board, and the first side is the stock side, and it's Michael just leaving the house that he's gotten up and walked away from at the end of Halloween, and his destination is Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. The other side is the kill side, and it's Michael in the hospital. And so the way that Joe over at Fright Rags laid out the board was, he integrated the colors from the movie and different visual cues that really make you feel like you're inside the hospital. It's really cool. And of course, you're seeing Michael killing everybody, all of his great kills all around the board. So we were very thoughtful about it and wanted to sort of create this board game where you can kind of put yourself in the movie and then go battle Michael Myers. That's really kind of what you're trying to stop the killer. In this case, Michael, you can play on either side of the board. You're either stopping him from getting to the hospital or you're stopping him from killing Laurie Strode. So that's pretty much the concept and objective of the game. But yeah, we're very excited for people to see it. I mean, we spent a lot of time on the artwork and every little detail of the design.
You said from the top there that Halloween 2 is one of your favorite. I guess, everyone likes to go to their Letterboxd app and rank all their favorite horror movies or horror franchises. I guess, where does Halloween 2 rank for you?
Really high. I mean, there's the lists of like Halloween is, I'm a huge fan of Halloween. So when I say I watch Halloween 2 more, it doesn't mean I think it's a better movie. It's just one that I love Halloween 5. And people hate Halloween 5. I'm like, oh my God, it's gorgeous. People hate Tina. I love Tina. I love that character. Yeah, she's a little annoying, but it's like, I just love her. She's great in it. And so yeah, I mean, like Halloween 2 is really high up. It's like 1, 2, H2O for sure. I can watch those 3 movies and kind of be done with it. But 5, Halloween 6 isn't very high up there for me. I don't watch it a lot. Resurrection's kind of low on the list. So, although I went to that premiere, that was fun.
But in regards to Halloween 2, and I mean, the Halloween franchise at large as well, I mean, where do you stand on the retconning? Like, so say, for example, Halloween 2 here, like part of the new Gordon Green, David Gordon Green, like trilogy, like that didn't happen. It just picks up right from 1978 Halloween, and all these other movies don't exist. And I mean, really, probably the first one to do it was Halloween H2O. But I mean, if you go into like all the scripting and all the production, there was going to be a one-liner which kind of linked them all together. But then it was, I believe it was Steve Miner that just didn't want to do that, or there was it could have been the production company. I'm not sure. And it just sort of like wiped that out. And I guess there's like a feeling amongst fans like their own franchise saying, "Oh, these films, not that they don't matter, but well, I guess they they don't matter, or these didn't happen." Like kind of taking back, making them less than, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess where do you sort of stand with that as a whole?
Well, I mean, now you've got all these different storylines. I mean, I think in the Halloween franchise, it's expected now, but I think back when they did H2O, I thought it was really cool that they retconned. Well, three really had nothing to do, but four, five, and six. And it was like, well, you could watch one, two, because they do treat two as though it happened.
Yeah.
So it's one, two, and H2O. And I really liked that. I thought it was very inspired. Once they made him Laurie's brother, it caused a lot of problems for the series, but it also, when they removed it for the Gordon Green movies, it felt a little bit like she was, in my opinion, way too traumatized 40 years later. She only was in Michael's presence for about 10 minutes, 5 minutes, he killed a couple of her friends, which is, I'm sure, traumatizing. But it felt like too big of a pill to swallow, that it was like, well, how could she be this screwed up, and building, booby traps in her house, and like that moving, counter thingy island. And I'm like, where do you even get one of those? Like, where do you get one of those metal grates that shoot out, like cages? And it felt so over the top. And in H2O, instead, you have this woman who has gone on with her life, she's an alcoholic, but she's got problems, but she's smart about Michael returning. Why? Because he's her brother. And so I'm more of a fan, and I always thought the retconning of the brother sister thing was a great idea. But then when I saw it, I went, you know what? I think I'm more of a fan of the brother sister connection. Just because I love Halloween 2 so much, but it makes sense. On some level, in the way that the over traumatized Laurie Strode of the last three films really kind of was so melodramatic that I was like, is it working? I don't know. But I love all the Halloween movies, though. I'll watch all of them 100 times.
And I think that's the thing with fans of Halloween. I think they're willing to suspend their disbelief when there's something that's retconned. Like, they may not necessarily agree with it, as you kind of said, but they're more than willing to go along for the ride.
Yeah. I mean, Halloween Ends was, I avoided anything Halloween Ends. I just was like, I just want to go in. It's going to be the last Halloween movie, at least for a long time. And I thought, I don't want to know anything about it. And then when I was like, I remember turning and asking my husband, who was with me, I said, where's Michael? like, what's going on? Like, what the fuck is going on? And so I've seen the movie maybe 10 times since I put it on at night and everything. And I do find a lot in it that I really like. And so I applauded its really doing something different. And I think it was trying to do that because it was mirroring Halloween 3, because that had nothing to do with your previous movies. And so, yeah, I mean, there's something to like about all of them. I'm glad the series is kind of on pause for now, for a while. I need a break from Michael Myers. So what you got to do is play the board game, because this game is a lot of fun, and you really do feel like you're in, like, battling in the movie, and the cards have, anyway, I'm not a good seguer sometimes.
No, I mean, my next segue was you speak about Halloween 2, how it kind of got a bit problematic, I guess, from like making Laurie and Michael brother and sister, and just sort of doing research in regards to Halloween 2. I mean, John Carpenter wrote the script. He fully admitted that, it was like a 6-pack of beer and, writer's block. But I mean, him speaking to, I believe it was Cinema Showcase back in 1984. And this is in regards to Halloween 2. I was really disappointed in it. He says, I don't think Rosenthal, obviously the director of Halloween 2, had a feel for the material. I think that's the problem. He didn't have a feeling for what was going on. Now, I think that's a bit harsh, considering the man who's saying that wrote the script. And from all accounts, Rosenthal really, he probably tried to replicate certain things from the first one. And John Carpenter was the one that kind of went back in there and made it more gory, more blood, and all that. I don't know if that's still John Carpenter's take on Halloween 2 or with Rick Rosenthal, but I guess what's your take on that?
Well, Carpenter called it an abomination. That was a quote unquote. I mean, that's the word he used. I don't know. Maybe it's just hurt feelings that, he was shoved into this situation where he had to write a second movie. He just didn't want to do it. He was kicking and screaming, and then Rick took it on, and he had to come and save the picture. I don't know. Doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Each movie is an expression of the people making it, at that time. And you can't deny Halloween 2 is it's a great movie. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's a different Michael. You get this very robotic kind of Michael that works for some but doesn't work for others, and it's got a really great kill. The hot tub, that jet tub scene is great. um Loomis is awesome in it. And so I don't know. I mean, Carpenter, I think he never ever considered making a sequel. I mean, think about it. All he does is this kid kills his sister. He breaks out. He comes home and follows this girl home, kills her friends, and that's it. The boogeyman. What is that? He just gets up and walks away, and you're like, that's all Carpenter wanted to do, was give you that as the boogeyman. That was it. Can you imagine what it must be like to be him, to see all these movies and like, oh my God, it's one man with a knife. Why can't they kill him? It's just, it's absurd. But of course, we all kind of want more and more. And the fans love them. I can't complain about them. I mean, I love them so much. But the fact that they've gone on as long as they have is kind of, it works against the concept of what Carpenter was giving you, was this little tiny suburban story of a boogeyman.
I mean, I think, yeah, if you do take that sort of brother-sister thing out of it, I think, yeah, and the whole, it being a massive franchise, I think it's very much on par with, John Carpenter's other films, like, that kind of had those really inconspicuous endings, like The Prince of Darkness, so to speak. And that's where, I mean, as I've got older, when viewing movies or TV shows, I've been appreciating films that don't necessarily hold your hand and tell you what has happened. I kind of like those. Well, I interpreted it two ways. It could mean this or could mean that. Do you think in horror? Do you think we get our hands held too much, or we need to over explain certain things, or it sort of really needs to be up to the eye of the beholder?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of over explaining in horror movies, a lot. And like, let's go back to Halloween. What happens at the end of Halloween? This guy falls off a balcony and gets up and walks away after being shot 6 times. All Carpenter does is just leave you with that thought. That's it. And it changes the ending from, wait, what's, like, oh, he's stalking these kids, to what's going on? Like, what's really going on here? And he doesn't explain it. And I think that's the strength of the ending. And what happens in Halloween 2. And I love the opening of Halloween 2, that Allie and Mrs. Elrod and the mustard and the mayo and the ham. I love all that stuff. And the first thing you hear, Loomis screaming is, he's not human. I like, they're establishing that now he's not just a man, and even in the original Halloween, he says this isn't a man. And all this point, there's no reason for you to think that he's telling you anything that's meaningful. You think he's being melodramatic. He's, whatever. But then when he gets up and walks away, you're like, wait, Loomis was telling us this stuff throughout the movie. This isn't a man, and so, and then at the end of Halloween 2, they burn him to the ground, and like, they tried to end it, and even that didn't stop him. And so Laurie says to Loomis right at the end, after he's, at the hospital and the big showdown happens, she says, why won't he die? And little things like that, I think, are very strong in the Halloween movies, because nobody knows what they're dealing with. Nobody knows why he won't die. Nobody knows how does he crash through a door. At the end of Halloween Kills, he's surrounded by a mob and then kills everyone, jumps up, and then somehow teleports to the house, which I love. I love the ending of Halloween Kills. And Laurie is telling you, you can't pretend he's not there, because he is. He's a boogeyman. I'm like, that's the stuff that makes the Halloween movies, I think, fire on all cylinders. The rune tattoo, whenever it appears, he appears, all that stuff doesn't work, because it's just explaining things that, oh, that's why Michael is the boogie. Oh, that's what it is. All right.
Now, the previous 2 Stop the Killer games, I believe they generated a combined 175,000 through crowdfunding. Now, that's a lot of cachet, and that's a lot of things. Obviously, there's licenses and things of that nature, but what goes into creating these board games?
Well, I'm a magician. I'm a professional magician. So in addition to the producing that I do, magic is like 7 to 8% of my life, but it's there. I perform at the Magic Castle and all that. It's like a magic trick. You have to kind of work backwards and figure out, well, what do you want the experience, what do you want the ending to be? And then you kind of work backwards. And I do magic tricks that way. When I invent a trick, it's like, well, what do I want it to be? And it's in, and I I compare the two, Magistrix and board games, because both are achieving the same thing, which is creating an experience of like wonder and fun and mystery and all that kind of stuff. And so for me, it was a blast. And it actually came relatively easily for designing Silent Night, Deadly Night, because I thought, well, let's make it feel like the movie, you know? And so it was Billy with an axe. And it's like, okay, well, we're trying to stop Billy from getting to the orphanage and killing Mother Superior. And so it kind of just started there. And then I went to my computer in Photoshop, I drew a big rectangle and I drew a grid, and I started thinking like, well, what would the board look like and what could we do and all of that. And so it's a lot of work. We have another game coming that is a completely different, it plays completely differently, and we're having a hard time with it because it's not easy to design a board game. I mean, creating a t-shirt is great. You give me an awesome graphic, you put it on a t-shirt and you sell it. A board game has all the components, it's got rules, it's got you have to test it like crazy, because if you don't play test it, you won't find all the mistakes in it. And believe me, when people are playtesting, they tell you things like, this sucks, this thing isn't working, or I don't understand this. And so, but all of that is very helpful. So if you listen to your playtesters, your game gets better. And that's what we did. We kept testing it and testing it and testing it. And each time we tested it, it got better. Little things like, the save badge should actually have a gold foil on it so that it looks more like a sheriff's badge or something. Like little things like that, and so all the cards, every word means something, and you just want to make sure everything's clear and no one's confused. And that's the biggest challenge. And the other one is, these games the games we've done so far are played on key holidays. So you don't, on Christmas Eve or Christmas morning, want to spend 45 minutes going through the instruction book, be like, how do you play this game again? You want to set it up and play in 5 minutes. So that was a main goal of mine as well. And the gameplay is short. You can have a 10-minute game or a 20-minute game, and then that means you can play 2 or 3 games if you want. Valentine's Day, you're probably with your love, and you play that game, and then you go watch a movie and you go to dinner. It's not a 3-hour game. So we have parameters to work with, and so far people are loving them. I mean, I see pictures all on Facebook and Instagram and all of that, and it's people playing their games on Valentine's Day. It was like, my heart was beating. I'm like, I love this so much, because now it's out in the world, and people are playing and having fun, and it's making an impact.
Us horror fans, I mean, it could be the same formula for most movies, which most horror kind of, especially the 80s slashers are. But I guess, how does Halloween 2, how's it different from the previous 2 board games that you've released?
Well, the games play very similarly. And, like you ever see Monopoly, and it's like the Simpsons version, the Barbie version, the Office version. Well, what we do is we take the same gameplay and we rebrand it, and we add little things on the board. Like there's on the hospital side of Halloween 2, there's like a corridor that you can move through. Michael can't move through it, but you can get to the other side of the board quickly. All the cards are custom to the movie, and so we have scenes from the movie on the cards. We have like Loomis saying circle the block again, and we create, it's basically, we want the games to play similarly in the Stop the Killer series, so that people are familiar with the game. So if you like Silent Night, Deadly Night, and My Bloody Valentine, and they're part of your holiday traditions now, you'll pick up the Halloween one and play it sometime in Halloween, in October with your friends, and it's familiar. The next game in the series will play, well, the next game is playing similarly, but we're having a whodunit angle with it and multiple killers in it. So that game's going to be upgraded to have those things. And so they change a little bit. I invented a card game for Candyman. I'll show you the prototype. It's these hexagon shaped cards, and they have bees on them and everything. And what you do is you place your, this is the first time I've ever shown this. You place out your mirror tiles, and you can start with 1, 2, or 3. And you place them in the middle of the table, and you start building a honeycomb. You look in the mirror and you start building a honeycomb around the mirror. And as that's happening, the Candyman cards start showing up. And the movie, right? It's like you say Candyman 5 times and he kills you. So the goal is to complete your honeycomb before Candyman shows up 5 times, and if you can do that, you win. But it's a solitaire game, so that's a whole different game that we're going to be releasing soon. Yeah, we just want to create just these games that are immersive and fun for slasher fans, and now I see other companies starting to do this, and I'm like, I was onto something there. But like, there's a Texas Chainsaw game that's coming out. They Live, I just pledged on the Kickstarter. They Live as a card game. I bought it because I'm like, I want to support those guys, and it's awesome that they did a card game based on They Live. So it's great. We love these movies so much as fans that we just can't get enough. And if the games are good, people will buy them. We don't want to make crappy games. We want to make good, fun, retro kind of style games. So we're having a blast.
And I guess that's a good thing as well, because I know horror communities, and I mean I'm a big pro wrestling fan, and I think fans, toxic fandom that does exist, but I feel like there's a big sort of fans. The one thing I guess I don't realize about films, and you may have sort of figured this out or come across this when you were working for HalloweenMovies.com, but like these films are made to make money, and sometimes that can be at the behest, I guess, of the actual real fans of it. And like, oh, why do they do this? Why do they do this? Well, because they've got contracts, and certain people don't want to do certain things, like stuff of that nature. But I feel like with the board game, like they can kind of play it and sort of play their own sort of version of the movie, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And you put yourself in the movie. So, you pick your favorite character. I don't actually have the box right now. I actually there's one Halloween 2 game in existence, and I had the factory make, it's called a digital sample, and it's just like it's the first iteration of the game, and then it's got all the artwork and everything. But I have some of the components here. There's like the rule book. Michael is, I'm trying to make it not glary, but he's walking through the door. But yeah, I mean, it's basically how to play and the setup and all of that. We have, one thing that's different in this game that's not in the previous Stop the Killer games is the killers have a specific, in the previous games, they have a specific path around the board. So the killer is following this very specific trajectory, and you can go all over the board, and you just want to land on his space and stop him from getting to where he's going. And in the Halloween 2 game, you get 3 different levels. So you get like level 1, level 2, level 3. So there are different paths that Michael will be following. So that's new to this game. We have 14 characters. If all the stretch goals are met, you can pick, name anyone in Halloween 2. There's a character for it. And the artist, his name is Yannick Bouchard. He did all of the cards and game pieces, and they are amazing. Like, my head exploded. I saw this artwork, and he was fast. And all of a sudden, like in 2 weeks, we had all the characters done. And I'm like, people are going to flip out. It's like so much fun. It's beautiful. And Justin Osborne did what we call the kill zones, which are sections on the board that are relevant to gameplay. But there's Michael doing his thing. He's killing people. One of the ones that I'm really excited about is, the scene in Halloween 2 where the knife is standing in the table and it says Sam Hain on the board. And Michael is like, sister, it's a Celtic word and all that. Well, you never see Michael's. In my head, I was like, I wanted to always see Michael slam the knife down, on this piece of paper. Well, so we have a kill zone where that's the action that's happening. And so you're getting a scene that is in the movie, but you don't see it. But like, we're serving up a really immersive, fun experience that fans will just like study the board and be like, this is amazing. And the little weapons, the little scalpel and the hammer and all that stuff. Like, we're really trying to make it fun. I mean, one thing that is clear is everyone making these games is loves slasher movies. And Universal they own the property. We've had to send them every little thing, every card, they scrutinize every word, and they're loving it. They were like, this looks like so much fun. You're like, everyone in the office was like, how do you play it? And it's just been great. The buzz is starting, and the Kickstarter is launching June 1st, and I haven't told anybody that yet because I was like, are we really going to launch on June 1st? But we're on track to do that.
My next thing was going to be, when's the Kickstarter start? So we
Yeah.
say roughly around June. So I mean, unless I guess something happens, would anything delay that, or do you think June 1st will? It's
No, June
definitely
1st is reasonable where we are now. I think we're very ready. And we want to just make sure the artwork is finalized. And so that when we create the Kickstarter and we show you the characters and the cards and all that, that there's nothing in it that it hasn't been approved, One thing we did, which I'm very excited about, is my very good friend Matt Russell said to me one day, he's like, you guys need like a trailer, like a real trailer for your Kickstarter. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, well, why don't we create a scene that feasibly could have been in Halloween 2? Like, Michael goes to the hospital, but you don't know if he's killed other people in there before he's killed Mr. Garrett and all those people. So he wrote a scene, and we filmed it 3 weeks ago, and we've been editing for 3 weeks this 7-minute scene that was all approved by Universal. And Michael looks great. And Michael looks like he looks like in the movie, and I can't wait for people to see this. But I want to tell you what the premise is, but the board game makes an appearance, and it's just really fun. And I think fans are going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe they did this. And so that we want that to be kind of like a surprise, so that when people go into the Kickstarter, like we have a couple of teaser trailers, we've cut footage from all this footage we got is like 20-second, 30-second spots. But when they go to the Kickstarter, they're going to click on that button and they're going to be treated to like a 7-minute scene from Halloween 2. That's just going to be so fun. So from the get-go, we just want to show everybody, we're hugging this movie so much because we all love it so much. Yeah, it was great.
So June 1st, with the Kickstarter will start, and I was going to say, allow me to be the first to donate. I think $20 Australian. I think that looking at conversion rates, that's roughly about $14 American. So,
okay.
And obviously once, so I mean, that's going to be the big, I guess the big unveiling June 1st is that video where people view that and then they can go donate, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm going to try and show as much information about the game as possible. I mean, we don't want to reveal all the cards, and like we designed a card that's the mustard and mayo card. And so if you pull that card, it says, look at another player and say to them, just think about mustard or mayonnaise. So like if I were to say to you, like, think of mustard or mayo, you would pick one. And then if I go, okay, I'll guess. And if I say mayo, and you're like, I was thinking about mustard, Michael advances a space on the board because we were wrong and he's getting close to his destination. If I say mustard and you are thinking mustard, we move him back a space. And it's just fun stuff like that, where you're just like, the only game you could have a mustard and mayo card is in Halloween 2, So that's the level of nerdness that we're bringing to the game.
And I know one big thing that you're trying to promote at Stop the Killer on the website is to subscribe to the newsletter, correct?
Well, yeah, it's our mailing list. The thing about our games is you can only get them through the Kickstarter and other like rare, like for instance, I'm going to Midsummer Scream. It's a convention in Long Beach at the end of July. We're bringing games to sell because we do have some extra inventory, but we don't put them on the site for you to buy. So yeah, if we do a convention, we'll have some games. We're thinking of doing like a flash sale in the middle of the summer to kind of just sell off some games, but they go up in price. And so every time they're made available for sale, they go up in price. And and so you want to get them, the best price is through the Kickstarter, and you just want to be in on day one. And you'll get access to things that you can't get access to later. Like in My Bloody Valentine, there were enamel pins and autographed posters and things like that. And the only place to get them is the Kickstarter. So the mailing list is key to being alerted to when the Kickstarters launch. So, if you just sign up for the mailing list, you don't have to worry about not knowing what our next game is or missing. So many people say, I missed Silent Night, Deadly Night. I missed My Bloody Valentine. Well, the mailing list will just let you know when the campaigns are live, and then you can go pledge. So when we don't bother you, I hate getting an email every single day from, like we'll just send out one every couple weeks kind of a thing. And we don't even do that now. We're so non-demanding of our customers' time. So. Well, we also have cool products like this, which is the My Bloody Valentine novel, which my friend Armando Munoz wrote. And so we were, we did my Bloody Valentine game. And so I said to the licensor and George Mahalka, who directed that film, I said, have you guys thought about doing a novel? And my friend Armando has written some incredible horror novels, and it just kind of happened like that. And then, we have another book coming out based on Silent Night, Deadly Night, and that's Armando's writing that one right now. And I've read about a third of the book. It's amazing. And so if you're on the mailing list, you'll get to know about our products and not miss out on anything, because the books are also limited edition and we don't have them on Amazon. Right now it's sold out. You can't get it. If you go to eBay, you can get it for 5 times the cost. So the mailing list just keeps you updated and plugged in.
You mentioned there the Midsummer Scream in July at Long Beach. That's where some fans are going to be able to buy these games. But I believe that's where you've kind of been skirting around the next project as well, the next board game. Is that where that's officially going to be announced?
Yes. So right now, we're about a week and a half away from finalizing this deal with this other licensor. So I can't say anything now, but that's where we want to sort of unveil the next game. So, and by that time, the Halloween 2 campaign will have ended. And we may have some, sample game Halloween 2 games there just to kind of show everybody. You can pick up Silent Night, Deadly Night. You can pick up My Bloody Valentine. Armando will be there autographing My Bloody Valentine books, and we'll be taking pre-sales for Silent Night, Deadly Night. Scott and Dennis are they're the co-executive producers of the original Silent Night, Deadly Night. They're going to be there autographing games. So it's only a couple days, but there's a lot going to be going on in the booth. So yeah, so we're gonna unveil or announce the next game at Midsummer Scream.
Now, I'm just gonna throw some names out there. You don't have to answer or say anything. I'm just gonna see if I can judge your face. Now, I don't believe it's going to be a Friday the 13th one, because that's just riddled with. You turned on the camera. Yeah, so I mean this is just me just being a fan. I reckon it will Friday the 13th. That's got so much legalities attached with it. I thought that you'd steer clear from that. But this is just me personally. I was just thinking of horror movies that could potentially translate as a board game. And one I thought of was Terror Train, because again, it's similar to Halloween. There's different compartments, and the killer dresses up as different characters, which could be an added thing to it. So that was my little guess. Terror Train, is it?
Well, it's so funny you say that. That was a game that I had my sights set on, and I made contact with the licensor, which was not easy.
Right.
I challenge everyone, try to find out who owns the rights to Terror Train. Yeah. It'll take you a long time. But I found them and we're talking. So I haven't, that's not the next game, but I definitely want to do Terror Train. And I had this idea where you and your friends build a train car. You build either the restaurant or the Magic, where David Copperfield is. It was another reason why I love this movie so much. But you build like the theater or the sleeping quarters or whatever. And you build, it's like a card game where you're building this thing, and then you have to kind of survive and not be killed by this killer that's changing masks and stuff like that. But I have a prototype that I have started. But it goes back to your question, like, what does it take to create a game? You don't just create a game. It can take a year. I mean, Silent Night, Deadly Night happened fast. But this other game I'm trying to design for another property is just going to take a long time because they're not easy. They're just not. And that's the beauty of it. Once you build it and it works, suddenly it's like amazing, because it's like, oh, somebody actually built this and spent, 600 hours, of their life, designing cards and stuff like that. So, but I love that stuff. I love it.
I believe earlier in the interview you said franchise, so I'm guessing you can say that it is a well-established franchise, that the new board game will be.
Yes.
We'll leave it at that before I start poking too much. Now, I want to take you back in time, Anthony, because I was amazed to find out that you worked with Trancas. But let's go back to about 2000 or 2001. My family just got dial-up internet. One of the first things I typed into my big pond search engine was Halloween. I stumbled across a little website called HalloweenMovies.com, where 12-year-old Joel was very excited to find out there's going to be a new Halloween movie in the works, originally titled Halloween Homecoming.
Yep.
But I guess that would be the future Halloween Resurrection. Now, I believe from 2003, you were working with Trancas International, where you were the webmaster for HalloweenMovies.com. Now, is that as a freelancer? I mean, how did that come about?
Well, I produced the first Halloween convention. So it was called Halloween Returns to Haddonfield. It was a 25th anniversary reunion anniversary for the movie. And it, for the first time, brought together all of the actors, as many producers, crew, all that, from all the Halloween movies. And up until then, there had been 8. And so we brought everyone together and rented out the Pasadena Convention Center, booked up all the hotels, and so that was my baby. And they've been doing them every 5 years after that. And the 45th one is coming this year. And for the first 2, Alec Akkad, who I worked for, asked me, "Hey, you did the 25th, you want to do the 30th?" And I just said no. I was like, so it took a year of my life. I had a blast, and I just thought nothing would ever top it. I mean, it was every time someone said, "Yes, I'll be there," and we updated this, like it was this magical thing that kept getting bigger and bigger. And I thought, it's just no way anything that we do later, it's not gonna match the magic of that. And I was also getting very busy with my other producing stuff. And so someone else is doing them now. And I go to them and they're fun. And I plan on going, to be there this year, just to walk around and say, I mean, I'm friends with PJ, and, I get to like walk around and say hi to everybody. But so when I started organizing the convention, I was not the webmaster of Halloween movies. These guys, Bruce and Brian Martin and Bruce Deerbeck, and they stepped down. They just had their fill and said, "Oh, we want to step away." And they recommended me because I had the Myers Museum, which was myersmuseum.com. That was my fan site, and I curated a big fan base, and I was a total guru. And so they recommended me right at the time that I was setting up this convention, and that's how it happened. I went and met with them. I went to Mustafa's office and walked in, and I was gobsmacked when, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm here," Mustafa God's office. And they looked at my website, and I remember Malik said, "You're perfect, you're hired." And I went, "Awesome." And Mustafa said to me in his wonderful accent, he was like, "What is it that makes the Halloween movies so incredible? Like that, what is it about that makes them incredible? Makes the fans go crazy? Like, what is the magic ingredient?" I said, "I have no idea." I said, "But I know how to keep them engaged." So I'm like, "That's what you need me for the website." But I said, "I think it's the question we all don't know the answer to." I mean, some people say, "Oh, it's the mask." Some people say it's, who knows what it is? It's just magic in a bottle. And so they needed someone to, run their site, and I was running Myers Museum. And so I shut that site down, and I went and worked for them for 7 years. And that's when I did the Halloween 25th anniversary DVD. I produced commentaries for parts 4 and 5. I was on a commentary with Alan McElroy on the part 4. I did bonus features for them. I directed a 15-minute promo that went in theaters when they re-released Halloween in 2006. So I did a lot of work for them, and it was great. I was at the office frequently. I didn't work out of the office, but I was there a lot. I heard secrets here and there, and it was great. It was just a really wonderful time. I worked there for 7 years as part-time. It wasn't a full-time gig. It was a part-time thing. And I was doing other stuff for my producing during that whole time.
And I had a note here said, like, understandably it's a job, and you want to be professional, but like you kind of alluded to it, was it kind of like a kid in a candy store type of situation?
Oh my God, yeah. I was in Malik said something about a storage room, and I'm like, "You have a storage room?" He's like, "Yeah." And he brings me down there with this other guy, I forgot his name, that worked there. And I'm standing in the storage room, and I'm looking at boxes all around me that say, I mean, little, this isn't a huge storage room, and it said Halloween, and I saw reels, and I was like, "Oh my God, what's in these boxes?" Like, I just literally was like, "Please tell me I can rummage through these boxes." And they didn't let me, but I was standing there, and I'm like, "What the hell?" I went to the office one day, and Mustafa said, "Oh, Busta Rhymes was in the office the day before." And this is after Resurrection. And he said they're thinking of the next movie, and they want to bring Freddie back. And he said that Busta wasn't happy with his performance in the movie, and they were talking about an idea to kind of get him back on board and everything. And then, but I just happened to hear that because I went to the office. I would never have known that otherwise. Obviously that didn't happen, but it's neat to know that there was this conversation going on when Freddy versus Jason came out. Mustafa called me, and called me on my phone, and I was like, "Holy!" The man never called me, and I'm like, "What's wrong?" And he said, "I was just on the phone with Dimension," and he said, "They want to pit Michael against Pinhead, and I feel like that's the worst thing to do, and I want to prove them wrong. Can you put a poll up on the website and ask the fans?" And I did that night, and I was surprised that it went like 60-40. Like most people were like, I thought it was going to be like 95% no, but no, there was actually interest in that idea. But I remember he leaned on me to kind of help him show Dimension that was the wrong way to go. So it was fun. I felt like I had a front row seat to all things Halloween there for a while. I remembered learning about Rob Zombie coming back and feeling like I know something nobody knows. Like I just, just by invariably you're there and you hear things. So it was a lot of fun. I loved it. I'm so happy that I was given this opportunity.
I mean, if you're at liberty to discuss, is there any kind of other things? I mean, most things are out there either on the internet or, like, say, for example, I know Dustin McNeil and Travis Mullins, they did Taking Shape and Taking Shape 2, which is all about sequels that didn't happen. And you mentioned Buster Rhymes there, that was potentially the next film. Is there anything that you haven't seen sort of reported on, or murmurs about, or rumors that hasn't got to any publication or anything, or it's all pretty much out there now?
Well, I'm sure there's stuff that I'm just digging around in my head of like, I can't right now. I can't recall anything. There was something, I wrote the foreword to one of those books, and there was something that they pulled because they said, "Oh, we don't know if we want people to know that." But I'm happy to tell you. And I don't mean to, it's about Deborah Hill, and I love Deborah Hill. I don't mean to slander her name or anything like that, but I think I called her office to invite her to my Halloween convention. And I purposely called after 5 o'clock on a Friday because I wanted to leave a message. I didn't want to get her on the phone. I had mailed her a framed, it's actually right, there's on the back of wall here, there's like a silvery frame like right here. Yeah. It's the Halloween convention poster, and it was a silver version. It was like, we only had like 50 made or whatever. And I sent her one, and I was like, I framed it, wrapped it in silver paper, and it was like, please come to our event. And because I hadn't heard, I was getting responses from people saying, yes, I will come there. And all the nurses from Halloween 2 were like, yes, I'll be there. And so I called because I was like, well, I don't want to talk to her. And it's really, I just want to leave a message to prod her a little, like, hey, get back to me. So I called at like 5:30 and she answered. she was like, Deborah Hill Production. I said, oh, can I speak to Deborah? And she's like, this is Deborah. I'm like, and I immediately went into, oh my God, I can't believe I'm talking to Deborah Hill. But I kept my cool and I told her who I was, and she got very upset. And she said, stop hounding me. And I'm like, oh my God, I've not hounded you. I mailed you one letter and sent you something. Like, that's not hounding. Like, and I'm the nicest person. I'm trust me, I'm not going to cause you any problems. I just was like, we'd really love you there. And if you come, we'll sell more tickets, and all the money is going to a children's hospital. And that's the truth. All the money went to a children's hospital. So here I was thinking like, oh, of course she's going to say yes. And instead she went into this thing about, Mustafa's been ripping me and John off for years. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't know any of them. And one of the things, Joel, that I have to say, like, when I started the convention, I thought everybody in Halloween got along. Like, I thought all the producers got along. I wasn't in the business. I wasn't in the Hollywood. I wasn't a producer yet. And I thought everything was just amazing and wonderful. And well, no, you find out things like this. And so I said, well, please, it would be great if you could be. She's like, I'll have to think about it. And then she kind of hung up. And I thought, I just caught her at a bad time. And I ruffled her feathers unintentionally. But I have heard she's a lovely person, and of course she's amazing. And, she wrote Halloween, and, but I didn't take it personally. I just was stuck in the middle of a tornado that I didn't see coming, you know? And so I put all that in the forward, and Travis and Dustin said, maybe we'll take that part out. It's a little, we don't want to, make people think negatively about Deborah, and that's not my goal here either. But those are the things, when you put together an event like that, like, they're not easy. People are like, it takes a year out of your life. And when someone says no, I'm not coming to your event, you know, it's like, holy, oh no, who? When she said no, I thought no one's going to come. No one's going to come because Deborah Hill said no. Oh, that was the thing. Oh my God. That's what triggered the Mustafa thing. I told her Mustafa Khan's coming, thinking that of course she'll say it. And instead, that was like the worst thing to have said. So yeah, that was my experience with Deborah Hill.
And it goes back to what I was sort of saying earlier with fans, we have such, I guess, rose colored glasses, I think the term is, in regards to, again, we don't realize that it's show business, not show friends. And, you know, you kind of assuming that everyone's friends and everyone gets along. I mean,
Yep.
you've probably had job roles where, and I have as well, where you've had to work delicately around certain people that you don't quite gel with, or you don't like the way that they go about things. And
Yeah.
and you, I mean, that's life, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of funny that you're like, oh yeah, everyone gets along and loves each other. Obviously not the case. And research sort of, I think for Halloween H2O, John Carpenter was asking for $10 million. I don't know if that was a real claim, or if, you know, I kind of feel, just from an outsider's perspective, I think John Carpenter has a very dry sense of humor. I don't know if he just give me $10 and give me $10 million and I'll do it.
Right.
But I guess it kind of does add up to, like, I know, Erwin Yablons and John Carpenter obviously like wanted to write the second film, or, you know, like, he didn't want to do it, and you kind of, like you said, got in the middle of that, not knowing, right?
Yeah. You know, you mentioned Erwin Yablans. I mean, I don't think I've ever said this. So you have to understand, I've never done a convention before. This idea to do a 25th anniversary convention was like a discussion with a friend, and we started putting out feelers, and I was jumping in the deep end without any experience. I didn't know how to invite people. I didn't know anything about anything. Well, you know, there we are a year later with this event. And so I was moderating the producer panel. So it was Mustafa Akkad and Erwin Yablans. So I come out on stage. I'm sitting. If you have the H25 DVD, you can see this and I don't think people are knowing what's going on, but I'm on stage in the middle of them, and I was not a good moderator. I'm a good moderator now, but back then I just started off with, let's open it up with questions. Like, I figured the fans want, this is the first time Mustafa's in front of his fans, and why do you want to hear me talk? So I just said, let's open it up for questions. Well, nobody was asking Erwin any questions. They were all asking Mustafa questions. And you see this on the DVD. Erwin leans over and whispers something to me. And what he was saying to me was horrific. He said, "You don't know what you're doing." That's what he said to me. "You don't know what you're doing." He said, "If you don't get me talking in the next 30 seconds, I'm getting up and leaving."
Wow.
That's exactly what he said. And oh my God, all these years later, I get to finally tell someone. And I'm shitting because I'm like, oh my God, this is not happening right now. Like, so after Mustafa finished, I said, does anyone have any questions for Erwin? You know, and someone asked him a question, and I might have said, how did you get involved with Halloween? And I don't know, but like, you know, I was thrown in situations here and there where I'm like, oh my God, like, I didn't want to offend Erwin. I love Erwin. Like, it wasn't my intention. Yeah. And by the way, Joe Wolf, I don't know if you know who Joe Wolf is. He's a producer on Halloween. He was not there on the producer panel because when we were putting the convention together, Joe and Mustafa had a lawsuit, very public lawsuit, where Mustafa was suing Joe for something, because they were partners in Compass International. So it was I think Carpenter, Mustafa, Joe, and Erwin. I think they own Compass, and they had a legal battle. And I didn't know until the day before if Mustafa was coming to the event, because the secretary kept saying to me, he might have to go to court on the day of your event. And luckily he didn't, and he was there, but the stipulation was, don't put me on stage with Joe. So we had a separate panel just for him. But again, if I had known all of this, I wouldn't have done it. I would have been like, how am I going to pull this off with everyone not, you know, these hard feelings left and right? So,
but maybe in hindsight, and obviously this is true, like, you going in not knowing was probably the best way to go about it, because if you did, you'd be like, oh, I'm not going to bother contacting this person, and then it wouldn't have become what it eventually became.
oh, absolutely. I mean, in everything that I get involved with, like, the less I know, the better. Because you know, if someone had said to me, "You do realize that for whatever was a bad thing that would have deterred me, like Mustafa doesn't get along with so and so, and Deborah doesn't get along," I would have just been like, "Yeah, it's then that's the reason to not do it, right?" So I have found that if I'm more naive, I can go in and navigate those things if they're there later. And I have found my naiveness on a subject to be an asset with documentary producing, all that stuff. And then the documentary came because I did the convention, we filmed it, and then the idea to do a documentary came. I didn't know how to put a documentary together. I didn't know what a color correction stage was. I didn't know that films went through. I mean, I guess I knew generally, but that there was a whole color grading. I'm like, what's that? like I didn't know anything. And so the less I knew, the better, because I learned and I did what I had to do. I didn't know about insurance, how long it took to edit something, how hard it was to get an interviewee in a chair, all those things. So yeah. So those two things were like my complete, I have no idea what I'm getting into, but I'm having so much freaking fun. I'll do it for free. I don't say that anymore. But those were my like film school years. Most people went to film school. I didn't. I made a documentary and did a convention and figured it out. So
And Trainkiss International, I mean, you're freelancing, it's part-time, but was it like you were part of a family? Did it have that vibe?
yeah, absolutely. When I go to the office, like I would say, "Hey Mustafa, how you doing?" He'd be like, "Oh, Tony, what do you think about this?" Or, how was your weekend? And, yeah, I mean, I wasn't there all the time, but I was there, I say, like, frequently. I mean, I had to go there for lots of reasons. Malik was out of the office for a little while, and I kept going there. I think we shot some interviews for 25 Years of Terror that we didn't get at the convention, and Jody Lynn O'Keefe, somebody from Anchor Bay, Mark Ward, who bought the DVD, a couple of Nancy Loomis, Nancy Kais. I could not find her for the convention. It was like, where is this woman? Well, we found her after we did the convention, and she came there, and I said to her, "Where have you been?" Like, she's like, "I didn't know the fan base was there." I'm like, "Come on, you had to have known." She's like, "I didn't know." And she was an artist and she was out doing art. And she's like, "I literally had no idea." So she came by. Yeah, it was like a little family thing. I went to Mustafa's memorial service. I helped organize one of them. And so, yeah, for those reasons, I felt like for that 7 years, like I was part of the team. And it felt great. It was like I hopped the fence and I was in for a little while. And it's great. I mean, I don't talk to Malik much anymore, but when we talk, it's great. I mean, there were no hard feelings or, it was just like my time kind of ended. And I just, Malik's like, "Should we have someone else run the site?" I'm like, "Yes." And, but it was all great. Really, really great. I don't think there was a time when I felt unwelcome at all. And yeah, it was great. Malik's great. They had a receptionist there that I got along with. We go to lunch all the time. So yeah, a blast.
You mentioned Mustafa passing away. I believe that was in 2005. Do you think, like, just from a franchise or company standpoint, do you think did the company change much after, in your opinion? Do you think, or like say like in regards to new films happening or anything like that? Like, did it? I don't want to seem like it didn't seem the same, like because he was the figurehead, right? And such a big personality and a big person there. Like, I'd imagine like it would have been so odd, like him not being there.
Yeah, I mean, it was so premature. I mean, Malik, I think was being brought in, like Mustafa said when I met him to for the webmaster job. He said, "My son is running the movies now." Like at that point, it was Malik was driving that process. So I think he had already figured, well, Malik is more plugged in than I am, and that's where the company's going to go. But I don't think anyone thought it was going to be as quick as it did. I mean, that was a shock. That was a horrible, nightmarish thing to happen so soon. But no, I mean, it's, they kept making Halloween. I think Malik made a movie called Made in Brooklyn. I think that's what it was. It was a comedy. And so they did make another movie. I went to that premiere. There was like not a screwball comedy, but it was this all out comedy, But yeah, I think they knew their bread and butter was Halloween. And another thing I realized when I started working there was Halloween was not the cash cow that we all thought it was. Like, it really wasn't. I mean, they were selling DVDs. Anchor Bay was putting DVDs out, but if you compare what Halloween is doing now, even like with merchandising back then, like I get all excited when I see like Fright Rags does these really great like figurines of like the characters. They're doing 3 more of them, whatever. And my friend said, I was like, I have to get these. And he's like, I'm like, why is a grown man like me so crazy about these little figure? Like, what's wrong with me? And my friend Nate said to me, because you didn't have them when you were a kid. Like, that's why you love them. And I went, oh my God, you're totally right. And so now it's raking in all this money. But I remember back then going, it's really not, really not. And they had the same deals with like A&E, they owned 1, 4, and 5. So Trancas was able to cash in on those. But like, there was never any Halloween 2 stuff. And like, and right now, like with Halloween 2, Universal said you can't have anything in it that's Halloween 1. Like, don't say anything about Lester. And so there's this big effort to be like, well, that's their Michael Myers, Halloween 2. So we made sure our Michael had the scalpel and the bullet holes, and the collar was flipped up in the trailer, and like, it's very much like Halloween 2 is Universal's, but 1, 4, and 5, that's where they were making their money. And I think H2O was their big comeback, and that did make money. So but did it change? I don't know. I mean, I think Mustafa would have done anything Malik said at that point. So probably, unless he wanted the series to continue from part 6, well, from H2O, I don't know. Well, that was the split. But yeah, maybe Mustafa would have had a little more say in it, but Malik was running it.
I recently spoke to Halloween 6 writer Daniel Ferrens. I believe he a contributor to halloweenmovies.com, or he was just someone that you was in, I guess, you were in contact with.
He was not a contributor
No.
To the website, but yeah, I invited. He was one of the first people I invited to the Halloween convention. I was at a Fangoria convention in the same space we held the Halloween convention, and I met him, and I met Pamela Shoop. And a couple months later, I emailed them each and said, hey, if I did a Halloween themed convention, would you come? And they both said yes. And I thought, that's a good sign. Like, that's a good sign. But I remember meeting them, and they were both wonderful. They were so nice. And, and I asked Dan, like, what was it like writing lines for Dr. Loomis, like Donald Pleasance? He's like, oh, it's the greatest feeling ever to hear him say, this house is sacred to him, like the lines that he wrote. And I was just so fascinated. I was a fan, like I didn't work in the business. I had a whole other career before I did stuff like that. I did my producing and everything. So I was talking to them like fans, and it was great.
I'm hoping that you have a bit of insights and background and can help with this one. And I only found out, so I went on the Wayback Machine, where you can sort of see screenshots of old websites.
I love Wayback Machine, yeah.
And I came across the H9 winner, and I came across the name Heather Bowen, and she was the winner of the H9 contest, which I believe fans were encouraged to do like a 5-minute audition or just explain who they are and why they love the Halloween movies. And this particular thing was you'd be an extra in the next Halloween, which was just called H9, I believe, at the time.
Yes.
Now, the announcement appeared in your Halloween 25 Years of Horror film, and obviously at the convention. Some fans have said that potentially was this competition rigged. And obviously people remember Heather Bowen because she's actually in the Halloween 25 Years of Terror, flashing her breasts, saying, see anything you like. Is there any story behind it, how that came about, or do you have any insight?
What, her flashing or the rigged, quote unquote?
Both. Was it rigged? And
well, here's the thing about Heather. She's a lovely person. I honestly don't know how she was a volunteer at the event. So everyone working there had these orange shirts that said convention crew on the back, and she was a crew member. And so no, it wasn't rigged. I don't understand why people say that, because the drawing is actually on the video. I managed the whole thing. It was a little like pumpkin, and I put all the names of the people in there, and Mustafa reached in and pulled out a name. And there was, to think it was rigged is like, why would I rig it? Like, why would I like anyone it would have been just fine. So I don't know why people say that. And I left the bucket there. So if anybody, and I put it, and I think I even said like, it's right there. So unless Mustafa had a paper in his hand that he was hiding, like I find that ridiculous. And they did film it, and she was a waitress in the Rabbit in Red uh, a set for Rob Zombie's Halloween. I remember getting a call from, I don't know, somebody on the film that said, "I'm calling you because of Heather Bowen. Who is she, and why do we need to put her in our Rob's movie?" And I said, "Well, Mustafa wouldn't have wanted that because he pulled the name out, and he said, and they did. So I gave him Heather's number, and they called her, and I heard they filmed it. I've never seen it, but she was just in the background, like as a waitress there. And I thought, well, that's great casting, because she looked like, the blonde, short, bubbly, like of course she looks like she'd work in a place like that, and Heather would probably tell you that. But yeah, it was just great. And here's a quick story for you. I put my home address on the Halloween movies website. It was a giant mistake, because I said, if you want to submit a video to be in this movie, do so. And I gave my home address, and there was a midnight cutoff on September 10th or something, I don't know. And I'm at home and I'm sleeping, and I hear someone banging on my door at midnight, and I was like, who the hell is outside? What the hell is going on? And I looked outside, and I saw them holding a tape, and I went, oh my God, they're submitting a tape. So they left the tape. I didn't do anything. I left the tape. They left the tape, and but they came to my house, but that was me being dumb. I'm like, why would I put my home address? I wasn't thinking. but yeah. So
because I mean, with Heather Bowen, there was reports that like she was a reporter at front of the Myers house, but that got cut. But she was actually at the cafe or as a maid.
Well, when I spoke to Heather, she had called me. She had called me because that scene in which it's about the flashing, she said was causing her some problems.
Yeah, right.
And I said, I completely understand that. And just letting you know that I was against that. I didn't want to put that in. I was against it. I thought, why would we do that? But our director, and it was not just me, it was everybody. There was a couple of people, they felt it should have stayed in. And so I felt bad when she said that to me, and like those kinds of things I don't want to be a part of, but I have to own it because it's in my documentary. So, I try to avoid things like that and other projects of mine. She was doing it because it was fun and they were laughing. I wasn't even there, but they were having a blast. And, I got an email from a parent, a very angry parent, saying, oh my God, I look over and I see this naked woman on my TV. And, my 8-year-old son, I'm like, come on, if they've seen Halloween, they've seen PJ. Like, I just felt like, like really. So I don't know. There's two ways to think about it, but she told me that they filmed it. So
it did feel a little bit out of place, didn't it? In that documentary,
it did.
It was just like, because I found it online. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And when we watched it, I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough then. But yeah, I thought you might have had a bit more of an idea or what was the story behind it. But obviously that's it.
Yeah.
But I guess as well, the Halloween, The Shape of Horror, that was kind of like a bit of another documentary that was done for the 25th anniversary of Halloween, or that was being re-released in theater.
Yeah, they were re-releasing Halloween in 2006. And so Malik called me and said, can you produce and direct a 15-minute thing? Because the company doing those, they like to, bring added value. So you come see the movie, but you get treated to this 15-minute intro. And so we filmed that. That was a lot of fun. It was really fun to see it on a big screen. I don't see my stuff on movie screens. It's always like TV and everything. So it was really neat to see that. Really fun.
And before we wrap up, because you've been very generous with your time, where to now for the Halloween franchise? I know you said earlier it's good to have a little bit of a break. Where do you see the franchise going? Is it going to be a reboot? Do we get a new version of Michael Myers? Do we kind of go all balls to the wall with an anthology type of thing that Halloween 3 was trying to, I guess, create? In your opinion, what do you see happening or not happening?
Well, I think if they're going to bring back the franchise, they should probably do it as a TV series. I think they work really well. You could build a mythology around this boogeyman. Yeah, I hope they don't make another Halloween movie for a long time, and if they do, I have such strong feelings about, like John Carpenter, his idea was so simple, and I think they veered from simple. And so unless somebody wants to like do an exercise in style, and like what Carpenter's movie was, it was, an exercise in style. That's what I think the next movie should be, something simple. Like, why can't they pick it up where he leaves, leaves the lawn and kills a few people, and like that's your sequel. It's like he's still out there on Halloween night and he got up and walked away. Maybe that could be a sequel, but I think less story is better. But if they want story, TV series, that's the best thing for them to do.
Anthony, you've been absolutely generous with your time. Look, gonna have to get you back on the show again. We could probably do like a deep dive into all the Halloween movies, maybe even more so in Halloween 2. Have to get you back on the show, and obviously talk about all your other work that's happening. But this is the part where I like to give the guest a plug. Obviously, we're talking about Halloween 2, the board game for Stop the Killer with Fright Rags. What's all the good deets so people can, one, find out more about this game and more about yourself?
Well, go to stopthekiller.com and sign up for the mailing list. That's the first thing. Please do that. If you want the game, that's where we're going to notify you. And we're going to do social ads, and we hope the buzz will start generating. So hopefully you'll see it on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. But if you want to be alerted, just sign up for a mailing list on stopthekiller.com. The Kickstarter will be launching June 1st. That's the plan right now. We seem to be on track to do that. And that's pretty much it. We're going to have a couple of surprises in the middle of the campaign, just fun stuff. When you do a Kickstarter, there's, the day one is real exciting because it's launched, but there's 30 days. So there's always a dip in the middle. And then there's pledges in the beginning and pledges at the end, but in the middle, there's a dip. So we want to do some fun things in the middle there to kind of keep the Halloween 2 fun going. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We're really excited about it. We think if you're a Halloween 2 fan, you're going to love the game. It's a lot of fun. If you're not a board game person, don't worry. It's not complicated. You can start playing right away. And you're going to want it because it's a collectible. It's gorgeous. I wish I could show everybody the game right now, but it's gorgeous.
Anthony Masi, director of Masi Media and the man behind the Stop the Killer series with Fright Rags, Halloween 2, the board game. I can't wait till it comes out, but I do realize it's only going to be released in America. Is there any way that I could get some international shipping, or what can I do? Maybe I might have to get some relatives over there to get me a copy.
That's your best plan. It is only US and Canada, and it's just a licensing thing. It's a parameter we have to follow because Universal, I think they don't own international licensing. So the other previous games we shipped all around the world, just find someone here to buy it for you and have them mail it to you. That's my best advice. There's nothing I can do about that. No. And I can't sell them on like my website. Yeah, I just can't do it. But yeah. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people doing that. So,
yeah. Like I said, I'll try to donate to the Kickstarter as well. I'll do more than my $20 Australian, which is 14 American. I'll try to slip you a few more money come payday, and hopefully get this thing rolling. I'm really excited about it. And
awesome, great, you're going to love it.
And thank you for taking the time, Anthony Masi.
Thank you. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you for listening to Talking Shape, the ultimate Halloween franchise podcast created by the fans. Make sure to stay up to date with the latest episodes by following Talking Shape on Twitter @talking_shape and liking us on Facebook. Feel free to give us a review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. We appreciate your support. Until next time.
Go home! Go home!